Okay, I'm here in your file. So basically the lens is copied from your file. These two curves, these nice lightweight curves, are also copied from your file. So, and then this is the back surface if I turn your frame on. That's just this back surface I've just duplicated and put on a layer that I should lock for the target just so I know how deep your nose pad is from sort of the side view here. Okay, so all I'm going to do is go and get your frame, well, you're really your front. I'm going to copy it here and hide yours. I'm going to take this, hide everything else, explode it, and definitely going to get rid of this. I think it might be grouped. Okay, there we go. I'm going to get rid of this and this. I'm going to set my construction plane to the front, extrude curve 5. I'm going to come back this way. Maybe, I don't know how far, but I'm going to go past sort of where your Nosepad depth is, so say there. Okay, I'm just going to pick these guys, join them, put them on the lens groove layer, which I tend to make red, so I know to boolean it out. Okay, so that's just there. One other thing I notice, I've got an extra surface in there. Don't need that either, or that. Okay, so, or this actually, since I have a target. So when I untrimmed, that's fine, that's fine. When I untrimmed your inner surface and then the outer surface, I noticed this happening, or that one just looked like it was moved as opposed to offset, which is probably not what you want. So I'm going to delete this one, the sort of the inner surface, set my construction plane back to the top. I'm going to use split with an ISO curve, and I'm going to set shrink to yes, and pick this surface, and so there's that darker line, which is the seam over there, and so I'm just going to go 180 over to here with my, I think my intersection snap will snap you right there. Space bar. Now you can just get rid of that back surface, because every time you trim and untrim, which might be a few times, you're just going to get all this extra junk behind it that you just don't need. So I'm going to offset this. I think when I did this before, it was 4 millimeters was your thickness. Let me double check that. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly the same thing, but you can adjust that if you need to. So 4 millimeter offset there. Okay, if we show everything again, what I'm going to do now is hit save. I'm going to set my construction plane to the front, project loose, which is PL for me, or you can just use the project command and hit the loose option. The surfaces you want to project onto are this one, and if you click it again, it'll just get the inside surface. So hit space bar, there you go. So reset my construction plane. I'm just going to take the first one, and when it does that real quick, this curve that it has made is also super lightweight, just like the one we projected, same number of points. It's basically just taking those points and draped it back onto the surface, although this curve is not precisely on the surface. It's just very close to it, which is fine for what we're doing. So if we take those two, that curve, and just move it back 2, and then this one, move it forward 2, and just loft between them. You can leave it at straight sections, or you can, we'll say if we do that, what happens is, you get the just one point at the front and one point, or at the front and one at the back, to get more points in between to give it a little more shape, you could say. What I would, a lot of times what I'll do is just, I'll change degree, is what it's called. And since you've got just that one span, like that one point here and one point at the front, that's how you know that's the U direction, so you want to set that to 3. The other direction's already to 3 since it's a curve that runs this whole length. And now when you turn the points on, now you've got these guys, right? And then you could always later or now or whenever, I think it's QQ, use move UVN, pick with all those and just sort of scale them out normal. Then you get a surface that's got a little pucker crown to it. So I might, just for the sake of argument, do that, just so it looks, it's going to look much more realistic in a rendering, excuse me, if that's the case. So let's say you just did that, okay. And now what you want to do is basically, let me see, I'm going to take these, hide them. What you want to do now also is to get this surface here and move it backwards, so really just the back edge of it. So I think those are, really all that need to move back, and just nudge them that way just till they're, let's see, left, top. Yeah, just till they're past the surface is fine. And this one, I'd probably nudge up a little bit, just being a stickler. Oops. Okay, so now you've got something that if you had a Nosepad surface that it would get cut. And also if you turn on your lens groove, you know, that can get cut. You just need to, basically I'm just making another way of making your orange surface. So the way we're going to do that, let me hide the groove and the target for now, is I'm going to use this is just a rectangle, just 4 points, super simple. I'm going to come, and we don't really need to see this edge surface right now, so come to the back view, and I'm going to just take it and trim out a hole in just the back surface right there. And just what you're going to do is loft between these two edges. You can leave it straight sections. You might as well, because we're going to have to rebuild the surface anyway. So, of course, ideally you want this surface and this surface to be curvature continuous across this boundary and this boundary. So we're going to do a match surf, which I think is MS for me. So that's this edge. That's what you want to match, and we want curvature. Say cool. And the same here. We want to preserve curvature at the other end, which means it will almost certainly be adding points along that surface. So let's see what we got here. Right, so now you've got, just hide everything but that. Okay, so there's all your points, right? So that's cool. What I would say to do probably is, actually, you know what? Don't loft. Sorry, let me do that one more time. So instead of doing that loft first, what I'm going to do is duplicate this edge. That's what I meant to do, which will have 4 points across it, almost certainly. So now what you want to do is turn your target back on, and you can actually hide these guys for a second. Okay, so that curve you just created, so you go to a right view. It's a little hard to see because it's yellow, but basically you just want to move that. I'm just moving it back into place, roughly to the midpoint of where your Nosepad depth is. If I go to the back view, you know, it's in there somewhere. And what I'm also going to do is just rotate it a little bit, just to give it a little more perpendicular. And when I drew perpendicularness, and when I drew this line or just adjusted this line, I was trying to get it to be roughly perpendicular right here to what the frame is doing, to what the lens shape is doing. Same down here, it's a little more perpendicular than the horizontal thing you're doing. That's going to make fillets run a lot more smoothly, at least in my experience. So I'm also going to, just from this back view, kind of more or less get this in the center. It definitely doesn't really matter where it is. It's probably more important that it's centered between this point and this point, because that's where it's going to get cut off. So somewhere like in there. Okay. So it's, and you could probably nudge it down a bit more like that, just so it's, you know, touching or almost touching the surface that you've got, if you get in real close, right? So, and that, it does this from top view. It's sort of curving back. It doesn't really matter, I guess I would say. Yeah, we'll say it doesn't matter for right now. Okay, so now what you want to do is do I think you can do a loft from here to there it is. That's that second curve we just sort of moved, and then this is your third trimmed edge. So definitely don't do straight sections. I would do normal. Preview. There we go. So you get just sort of a smooth curve that just it goes through that curve here. And the only reason I did that is just so you don't have to move the points as manually as before. And something else, since your Nosepad, I'll hide that for now, is sort of trapezoidal. You could also do from back view, if I just copied and pasted that, the top part of it, like knuckle of it, is like kind of here-ish. And then the other one, I'll copy paste to sort of down there-ish, if I had to guess. And this will help sort of control it as well. You can certainly do this, yeah, by moving all this stuff manually, if you were so inclined. But yeah, that's That's roughly close. We'll see how this next loft looks. You probably don't need this one, if I had to guess. Okay, let me try that loft again, from here to here, here, and here. Yeah, that's a little more correct to shape of what yours is doing just in general. So I'm going to pick just those two surfaces. So now what's left to do is really just to get the surface to match. So MS for match surface. Oops, sorry, let me do that one more time. There and there, click that twice. Continuity, just want to set that to curvature. And it's going to add points, actually, so you can see it. So there's 3 points up here and 3 rows of points here. So if you match this curvature just as is, maybe that's what we should do. Let me do insert. Nope. Well, let me see what happens if I just match surface. And to curvature. Okay. So it just takes, right, so it just takes those 3 rows of points you had and just sort of mushes them so that the math adds up. So that if you go here, you can't, I hide your target, you kind of can't tell that one surface where one starts and stops because of the continuity math, right? You can sort of see it because of the graphics card, but it's hard to see. So, so really you don't want to do what I just did. What you want to do is so curve. Oh, insert control point, which is probably, I don't know what my shortcut is for that anymore. Anyways, so you're going to click this surface. You definitely want to have midpoint to yes, in my experience. So in the direction you want to switch yes this way. So these are where, so that's, you've got a point there, you've got row happening right there. So try to, so I'd probably just add it in here and one above that. So I think now you've got 3 rows going across. So that if you match that up, that'll then be continuous. So we'll go in and maybe it's a little easier to see. Insert control point down here. If you did one there and there. All right, so now if you do MS and continuity's curvature, right, you're going to get this little, that's what's happening. So you can adjust what's happening beyond that yourself, and it doesn't matter. It'll still just join up perfectly fine and be perfectly smooth. So match surface up here as well. Okay, right, so now from the back view, just as long as you don't touch these first rows going across, you're good to go. So, oops. So these I'd probably definitely smooth out a bit. These as well. Let's get a sense of what's going on here. So these almost certainly need to go back in space to start to match the shape that you've got going on. Then these also kind of need to go back and probably also kind of up to make that sort of knuckle shape. More like that. And, that's not perfect, but it's close. Probably also set my construction plane to the front, nudge them down. There we go. Now that's mighty close. Okay, these, I'm just going to move. Just kind of evenly spacing those along the length, I guess. And shape-wise, that probably wants to come back a bit. And hopefully, that these surfaces don't, that this doesn't like mush right in there, that you've got this sort of, kind of, you could call that an overlap, isn't going to matter because you're just going to chop it off anyway, I think, with any luck. Okay, so now you've got, yeah, I might smooth that out even a little more compared to what you have in there. Maybe just like so. You can also move UVN to adjust these. It's not especially intuitive, but so if you drag those closer, so long as you're staying along the line of the cage, it's all good. It's not going to lose its continuity. So I just tried to smooth that out just a hair, and even these you can do the same thing, even if you slide them actually. Ooh. So you want to have a long control polygon set up, so let me undo that and move UVN again. Make sure you have a long control polygon, just to be safe. That was probably what I did was probably fine, but sometimes you never know. But then, so if I slide them up that way, like that, now it's not, now that's just tangent, because it's not staying, this is not a straight line. So the best way to, if you wanted to move them in this direction, the best way to do that is just with the move tool. And use your points, turn off project. So you'd move it from this point, and then just move it to this point. Don't click, hit the tab key, and then you get that white line. Now you can sort of extend them. This is what I did before I knew the move UVN tool existed. So let's say you just moved it out to there or something, just for shits and giggles. So now it's nice and smooth. Okay, so let me hide your target again. Okay, show everything, and oh, also this. So you pretty much need, you're going to need, like, so if you're, oh, let me loft real quick from here to here, just so we have that guy. I'm just going to join those, so it's one less thing to select. So we need sort of our boundary surface, the front surface, or actually we should also probably take, we can get rid of that straight loft now. Pick this, so you're picking your sort of new Nosepad surface along with the inner surface and joining them. So if you showed edges, you could see that it's definitely joined there, and it's joined down here. So it's a little angry about that, but don't worry. So we turn everything back on. So we need, so the front inner surface, outer surface, the boundary surface, hide everything else, and I think we should be able to create a solid. Nope, sorry. This, and then also I'm going to take, why are there two red surfaces? That's strange. I may have had one left over from the last time. Yeah, I think I did. Okay, sorry about that. So anyways, just as long as the back edge goes past that. I'm going to cell curve and hide them just for now. And so now with the lens groove, that's on that. Sorry, let me actually copy this. Okay, now if we pick that. It says it is unable to create solid, which was not what I was expecting it to say. Because that's... Actually, let me hide that first and try it just with... Okay, so I think why it's failing is if you just loft from there to there, just make a big nasty circle, it doesn't matter. Join that. Oh. And I wonder too, that's so close. So here, let me just hide extract surface, turn its points on, take this, move it back, join, show. Just gonna move all those curves to that layer so I don't have to look at them. Okay. So, excuse that computer bump sound. Anyways, I created a solid, I think, from the front to back and the boundary. It should work okay. And then you don't actually need this. You can just Boolean split that with that. And delete that out. Okay, so now all of a sudden you've got that. And if you're like, oh man, this is all stupid and thick, I hate it, you can always, what I would tend to do, well, first, step one is make sure the fillets work. So let me just do FE for fillet edge. We'll try 1, hit chain edges, which, oh, I don't know why that's not chaining, but that might be just a manual thing. We'll see what happens. Please work. All right, it worked. Awesome. There you have it. So you have a nice, right, but then again, like I said, you want to undo that. And then also so careful here, just that is so thin, just FYI. A lot of times with just this inner surface, I kind of have to go and chop off. Let me just, hold on a second, demonstrate it on the other side. A lot of times what I do over here to get thickness things like this to behave are just split iso curve there. Okay, so like I would split it there and then make some other surface at the middle that I could sort of point sculpt the way that I did the Nosepad Depth surface, just so that this comes back a little, so you get a little more thickness happening there. I can demonstrate that in another video if you like. Anyways, but I mean, you're fine for right now. You just need a real small fillet right there. But anyways, if you fillet edge, we'll try half. I know that's not going to, probably not going to work, but we'll try it. Or it's real close if it is going to work. Oh, well, it worked. All right, fine. In my face, but yeah, that's generally closer than you want it to be. And actually, there's your problem. If you hit show edges, so that's just like a little too close. So if we just did like a probably 0.3, which is about as small as you're ever going to see with tooling, chain them. There you go. All right, so this side of the Nosepad doesn't really matter because that's not really touching your face. It's really this side that you really want to be nice and a big juicy fillet if you can. So what I would say to do, and you may or may not go to the front view or the back view. You know, you can't exactly, it's not a ton of angle on that surface, which is why sometimes on frames you'll see that the distance from sort of like, you know, here to here is a bit thicker than you've left it to be. And that's purely the reason why. It's just so that the nose, instead of being straight back, it'll be more like, you know, which is what you're already trying to do. It'll just have more angle to it so it rests on the nose a bit better. Anyways, but let's say you don't like this and wanted to slim this up a little bit. You could always extract surface, pick that, take this, you know, just start nudging it over, and then you get kind of a pretty decent preview of like where you're gonna end up at if you start doing things like that. You probably wouldn't pull it that far, and even typically with stuff like this, you want to like especially, hold on a second here. Okay, so the first thing, so also of note, whatever, I didn't check this curve, but you really want this to be tangent because your fillet's not going to run across the center. So the reason why it's not is because it's not like that. You want them to be horizontal to each other, so you'd have to fix that anyway, so it's all good. So things like that happen constantly. But anyways, what you typically want to have happen in here is with these guys, you want to move them up a bit. So you get more of this kind of scooping up. That just helps the frame sit on the face a little better. It scoops, just takes this away from bumping into somebody's nose just that much more. So a lot of times you just pull these like way, kind of almost distorting the crap out of the surface, but that's typically how it's done is what I'll say for right now. So these you'd probably want to go in a little bit just to accommodate that. Might pull this one up a bit just to smooth that curve out some. Just so you have a nice smooth wherever that fill is going to be landing. Yeah, you can probably take this guy in left a little bit more. Okay, so usually it's like I'll do that first thing and be like, it's pretty engineered looking, and then I'll go back and just explode it, adjust some stuff. Another thing I often do, and even times I do before I've added this row and this row of points, is I'll take like kind of all like these. Like basically what's happening is from the right view, it's like really straight front and back. So if you just take at least this last row of points and can nudge them up a bit just to, and that does affect this very slightly, but it's super minor, and just for the niceness that this creates on the frame, it's super worth it. So this one I might move like kind of up and in a bit. And you know, this loses a little bit of thickness, but it's not the end of the world. And again, these are just the kinds of things that you negotiate in space constantly when you're doing this kind of thing. It's very sculptural, so that's just kind of the name of the game. You kind of take all these and knock them in a little bit, probably. This one probably goes there, kind of at an angle. And let's see. You probably stop doing that. You probably don't do it to this one. You probably just do it to this one because you've got matching issues or whatever happening there. So with the temple, I mean, or not that you have them, but you may incur them. So okay, so then I'd probably do something like that. And again, this is going to feel so much nicer in your hand when you do that kind of thing, just to give this surface some even more crown. So again, I'd probably just hide the lens real quick. Apparently that's not on that layer. Change. Okay. So a lot of times I'll just extract surface, get rid of that fillet. It's probably 2 pieces. And the lens groove. Not going to need it. And untrim your front. And oops, there's another piece here. Oh, can't untrim this because it's a poly surface, sorry. So if we just explode and untrim that, right, you've got that. Front surface, the back surface, that piece of the back surface. And what I usually do is I'll go back and just reloft that from there to there. It's totally fine. You go ahead and rejoin all, those guys, join. Once you've done that, you can go back and you see, turn on your curves. Use this guy again to trim that out. And again, you haven't moved anything on this surface or this surface, so it is fine. Oh, I haven't untrimmed that yet, though, sorry. So just untrim this guy and this guy. Okay. And let's double check. So this to this, join. Yep, and you're still good across the top and bottom. So, okay. Oh, so then you'd probably need to just recreate this loft real fast. Bang, bang. Join that in there as well. Look at this guy. And it's a bit of an extreme angle, but we'll see how it goes. Create solid. Why can't you create solid all of a sudden? There we go. I don't know what I tapped, but I don't know what that extra stuff is there either. Come back with your lens groove. Drop that out. Okay. So now you've got that nice nose scoop happening. And also, I saw later in your file you go and chop in and out the nose cone, so you probably want to do that before you do what I'm doing here. But yeah, anyways, let's see. So let's fillet an edge. Let's try one. Still not sure why that's not just running over that edge with the But there it is. And again, you can just see like where the surface gets tight. It just has to add more data in there to accommodate. So, you know, just generally be mindful, like kind of how high up or how far down you're starting where your nose is happening. In this case, you may be able to start up even a little bit higher, or even if I went back and like if I turn the curves on, and basically if I just copied and pasted that, and then just took this up a little bit higher like that, that might get you where you need to go, and just use the higher. I'll make this one as the cyan one. If you took that cyan one and retrimmed out the back side of the surface, and just left this that surface that creates this sort of depth of the nose pad. If you just left it where it was and just picked this edge and rematched it, that'll keep most of this where it is. You wouldn't necessarily have to go through all that rigmarole I went through. So, and also I see this, how this is not, I hate that, how this is like wide and this is not. It's because when I did that, let me go back to where I did the fillet. There it is. Okay. So if I do fillet edge, chain edges, do this, this, this. Okay, so that's the edge. I have a thing where at some point, where is it? Rail type, not rolling ball. I hate rolling ball, is just awful. You want to use either, I tend to use distance between rails or distance from edge. A distance between rails is what's called a chordal fillet in real, well, not real software, other software. Distance from edge is a lot more what people think is happening when there's a rolling ball fillet, but this is a bit closer to what is happening in a rolling ball fillet, and you'll see that in a second. It's see how much more consistent the edge is versus how it was. So just heads up on that. That's one of my pet peeves when I see things. Fillet edge 0.3 chain, and this will also be a nice chordal fillet. It keeps that setting. So again, you've got just a little bit of surface there, but you see something. Where's my mesh? Let's turn that up to that. Okay, that's much nicer to look at. So so that's pretty much what I would do. So yeah, just look at chopping out this back surface here just to give yourself a little more, even thickness once you get past the lens groove. And a lot of times what I do when I do that is maybe I'll pick this and I'll call it like, front thickness, I think is what I often call it, and I'll just copy that object to that layer. And what I'll do, let me hide. Okay, so what I'll do is, if I know it's like 4mm frame, I've got a 2mm thickness lens here, right? So I'll extrude curve, yeah, this way 1, and then the same this way at -1, and now this should be basically 4mm front to back. Excuse me. And that helps give you, or sometimes a lot of times the frame is more like 5mm front to back. So, oops. I might move this more like 1.5. Oops. 3, 4, 5. Or sometimes depending on what the look you're going for, the lens may be set more toward the front of the frame or not. But this one, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost certainly wants to be like probably 1.5 mm behind it or so. And that's also to help accommodate for people with that have really thick prescriptions. So I'll just make that, just join it back up, and I tend to make it a color that's kind of bright and obnoxious so I can see it relative to other stuff. And by layer would be awesome. If I could just put that where it goes, there we go. And now you can see pretty exactly literally exactly how far off you are with creating that thickness if you're going to go back and trying to think how I would describe it. I'll make a separate video if you want to see it, but basically there's a way of chopping off kind of on this surface. You chop off this part of it and then more or less this part of it, and you make a curve here at the center line, and you can just loft between the two until this is back where you need it, back in space. Yeah, let me know if you want to see a video of that. So that's pretty much how I would do this. Sorry this has taken, God, how long have I been yammering? God, 34 minutes. Forever, kind of. So anyways, yeah, that's the general idea. Let me know if that makes sense. If you have questions, give me a shout. Happy eyewear modeling. Cool, man. Peace.